Hey/X/. I'm stuck at work with nothing to do, so I figured that I would unload some experiences from my adolescence that have remained more or less unexplainable. I'm hoping that someone here might find them interesting and/or offer a potential explanation. Be me, 8 or 9 years old at the beach with my family. Playing with my mom in the sand, building sand castles and shit. Decide to dig a really deep hole for whatever reason. As I'm digging, I begin to hear a distinct high-pitched ringing noise, similar to tinnitus. Eventually, move away some sand to see something bizarre in the hole. There's a face staring straight up at me from the sand. Face looks faintly human but a bit flatter, and seemed to be coated with an outer layer of sand, rocks, shells, and other beach debris. The face had 2 small beady black eyes, no discernible nose, and a long thin mouth lined with tiny needle-like teeth like a piranha. Basically looked like an evil beach-themed version of the Thing from Fantastic Four. I vividly remember the eyes blinking several times, and its mouth moving, causing it to squirt out a few small spurts of liquid, presumably water. After staring at it for a long moment, my mom extends her hand to touch it for some reason. As she's about to touch it, the face begins to undulate, sending a sizable glob of sand falling down the hole, obscuring the thing. We tried to dig it back up, but it had disappeared completely. I've tried figuring out what the thing I saw was, but yet to come across anything that resembled the face in the sand. Does anyone have a similar experience or know what that thing could have been?
Stargazer.
Dude, holy shit, you solved it. Thank you so much, LMAO. That's eerily similar to what I saw, except it was much larger.
Lamau, the thing that haunted you for years was just a fish. But at least you have closure, mate.
Another story, unrelated but still strange. Be me, a year or 2 later. Friend is sleeping over at my house. It's late, everyone is sleeping besides me due to issues falling asleep. Laying awake, looking out the window. It was a cloudy night, so the moon, stars, etc. weren't visible. Suddenly, I see a bright flash of white light in a fixed spot in the sky. The flash then morphs in shape and color, greatly resembling photos of a supernova. It looked like a suspended explosion, wrapped in pink, white, and blue/green light. As soon as it appeared, it implodes in on itself, leaving no trace whatsoever. I've never seen or heard of anything like that happening to the naked eye before. Also, I live in the south, so I really doubt it was an aurora or anything like that. What did I see/X/? An alien ship? The government shooting something out, or the atmosphere? Anyways, thanks in advance for reading, and for any possible ideas you have as to the origin of these things. Also, feel free to post any of your own stories, or screen caps of ones you've found interesting in the past. I'll share one I remember from when I was very young. There is no jump scare or monster, just something creepy from my early youth. Be child. Too young to be in kindergarten. Have an imaginary friend. His name is Ghost. No red flags there, am I right? Be laying in my room in the dark one night. Parents told me it was time for bed. I wasn't having any of that. Laying on the floor with pillows and blankets because I thought it was cool. Kind of felt like I was camping. Talking to Ghost. He says he want to show me his family. Look under my dresser and can clearly see all these ghostly white and spectral green disembodied heads. Did not look pleasant. Like they were shrunken or beheaded or something. They didn't move or say anything, just kinda sat there. I can still vaguely see them to this day when I think about it, but can't describe how they looked much better than that. Too young to think it's weird or be scared. Just accept it. Ghost wants to sleep over. Tells me I have to ask my parents. I go to the top of the stairs and holler down to the living room where my parents were. Mommy, Daddy, can Ghost sleep over? There is a pause. Dad yells back up something like, yes, just go to bed. Excited, go back and tell Ghost. And that's about it. I live near an abandoned psychiatric hospital, we will refer to it as psych, and have had some super strange experiences. This is one of my later experiences. Be me in high school with friends. We get off the bus and immediately head to psych so we can smoke. Me and 4 others, RJ, Tom, Lucas, and Devin. Head into building, everything seems normal. Start heading for the roof. RJ and I are having a conversation separate from group but still following behind. I need to tie my boots, RJ and I hang back. Finish tying up, then realize the group is nowhere to be seen or heard. After hastily trying to catch up to group in only direction they could have went, we call to them. Somehow they are now on the opposite side of the building about 3 to 4 floors above us. We catch up with group and think nothing of it even though the building is huge. Get to the roof and spark the joint, but everybody seems kind of jumpy for some reason. I distinctly hear footsteps the entire time. Nobody else hears them. I'm starting to make everybody nervous. Finish the joint and decide to exit the building because we're all sort of jumpy. Get to the exit and Lucas is last one out. Lucas yells "Ack WTF" and presents a scratch all the way down his forearm. Lucas is kinda retarded, so we thought he scratched himself as he jumped out the exit. Exit is a window about 7 to 8 feet high up with debris piled up in front to get in and out. We begin conversating again and forget everything that just happened. After all, we are outside the building, home free, right? All of a sudden we hear what sounded like an EMP from a sci-fi game, ring out all around us, and at the same time we see an orange wave basically scan over the entire landscape around us. All of us friggin' running for our lives. Naturally running in a single file line. Devin, who is directly in front of me, goes "oh shit" and falls on his ass while looking at something to his right. I look where Devin is looking and have the exact same reaction. Oh shit. There's a figure probably somewhere around 5 feet 9 inches. Pitch black with radio static around it. Feels horrible to look at. I still get crazy chills when I think about it. I pick Devin up and we catch up with the group again down trail. In the woods, none of us are talking, just want to get home. Woods are eerily quiet except for one bird that is repeatedly singing a strange tune all the way up to the exit. That's the most blatantly supernatural experience I've had, and it was in the building we still think of as the safe house on the property. I've had plenty more. This was one of my first green texts. Maybe I'll put another story into text someday. Well, as I was growing up I heard different stories about why it closed, from rumors of patient abuse to just declining population. Now the only story I hear is that it closed down due to asbestos infestation, I guess you could say. Me and my friends are the only people that have stories like this, but there aren't many people that have spent as much time in those buildings as we have. There was a group of older people that had way more experience in the building, but I never spoke to them about supernatural experiences. Here's a pic of frozen bats we found with said group in the oldest parts of the tunnels. Was watching TV, suddenly the TV was displaying my vision, creating a two mirrors facing each other effect. Just as it occurred to me what the hell I was looking at, my phone in my lap started vibrating, and the TV displays started to change, starting from the smallest / most distant and going sequentially toward me. As it got closer, I could see that the camera, my vision, was pointing down to a cell phone with my friend's face on the screen. I wish I had the forethought to not look down, but without missing a beat and on time with the sequence of TV views, I looked without thinking, and it was her. I don't know if it means demons, or simulation, or I'm just losing my mind. I have this strange memory of being like, maybe 6. Oh screw it, short green text. Be me, 6 years old. Sleeping in bed with parents for reasons I can't remember. Parents both asleep, I'm lying awake for what felt like hours. Suddenly, I hear singing, clear as day, coming from right outside the bedroom window. I'm the monster on the windowsill, I'm the monster on the windowsill. I lie frozen, thinking if I move it will somehow know I'm awake and get me. Eventually I must have fallen asleep. Next morning I asked Dad, was that you singing last night? He has no idea what I'm talking about. It must have just been a dream. But I can still remember the song and cadence it was sung. And I distinctly remember thinking, what's a windowsill? Have a few, gonna post at least one. Be me. Like 14 to 15 summer before 10th grade year, so like 2013 I think. Been staying up all night like I do every night in the summer, BC unhealthy gamer lel. I never missed sleep, just had a near nocturnal sleep schedule and had done that shit like every summer since I was like 11. So no hallucination. Walk out into living room, stretching, yawning, etc., just moving about and shit, like 7 a.m. Walk past couch full of random shit from the basement, moving soon. Sister's old Leapfrog brand leap pad goes off and starts making the intro song like when you would open it. This was an early 2000s children's electronic learning toy that was interactive and would read you stuff, tell if you got your answer right, etc. Looks like Pickrel, not sure how new the image I'm using is. Isn't supposed to make noise when closed, God knows how long it's been since it's been used, shocked that it even could make noise, and then it hit me that it shouldn't be. I did nothing that would have bumped it or anything. Didn't touch it to make it do anything, etc. Just walked past it and stared at it for like a minute, kinda freaked out. Take it back downstairs in the basement. I sleep. Freaked me out bit, I was real tired, Disu. Might post more, I don't know. Leapfrog anon here. May have posted this one before, but I don't know, can't remember. Be me, small toddler. Used to go visit grandma on my dad's side, nice old lady, kinda odd but nice. Lived in giant ass historic house that my gay uncles bought her. House is on a mural on the back of a plaza in town, Dexter, MO. Used to always bring my ball and play with it up and down the hallway right in front of the door. On that hallway was a staircase that went up. Always gave me weird ass vibes and I would try to never go up. Couldn't even bring myself to look up the stairs all the way. Just acknowledging it filled me with intense dread. House is old historic roadhouse, I think. There are many bedrooms upstairs. Years pass. Have dream that I am upstairs in the upper hallway with the bedrooms. Dad comes running through and a demon was chasing him and jumped on his back. Demon looked like the skeleton thing from Pickrell Mim, shadowy black mass of a body and had a normal skull as a face with a spiky black shadowy hair / helmet-like mass on the cranium. Jumps on my dad's back and starts to push him down. Dad goes, "Anon, help me Anon." Wake up freaked out. Few more years pass, Grandma has passed. Go up to the house to look around and see what we have to do, etc. Like 7 or so this time. Family going up the stairs. I am unsure, very hesitant. Bitch, mom made me go up anyway. Intense anxiety and dread still. Get up to the top, the upper hallway, which I have never been up to in my entire life prior to that, looks exactly as it did in my dream. Lots of white doors and old Timmy green wallpaper, nice door trim, etc. Friggin' jaw drop, stunned, couldn't believe it. Fast forward to a few years ago. 20, on the phone with Dad one night. He gets to talking about his mom. Start talking about how nice the old house was, you can't get built like that anymore, etc. Mentioned how that staircase used to always scare the shit out of me as a kid. Said he remembers me being really scared of it every time we would go. Told him about that dream I had, described the demon in detail. He goes, "It's funny you mention that. Oh hell no. PNG. Says one time before I was born he was passing through and stopped in to visit mom. Started to rain real friggin' bad, he didn't wanna be caught up in that on the road anyway. Apparently the walls were super thick and made in dimensions that they don't really do anymore, and there was brick underneath the wallpaper and shit on all the walls, and he could still hear the rain pouring the hell down, and normally you wouldn't hear rain. Goes to sleep upstairs in a random bedroom. Mom just told him to make himself at home. Sleep. Wakes up at like 2 a.m. Closet is open, wasn't open before. Just staring into the black mass of the closet. Think he sees movement, like a shadow moving amongst the shadow of the interior. Is real freaked out now. Suddenly a skull face with spiky black shadowy head slowly rises up from the foot of his bed and stares at him. Dad freaks the hell out, pulls himself up, and starts rebuking him in the name of Jesus Christ, etc. Family was Pentecostal and very much so. Goes on and on shouting, rebuking it for like a minute. It does not move, just stares unaffected. Some time passes and my dad is about to friggin' lose it. In a deep growly voice it says, "I just wanted to make sure," and sunk back down. No movement past then, no sound. Just sank past view behind the bed. Dad stayed up until sunlight. Never told anyone about it until he told me that night. I worked as a fish and game trooper in Oregon for a few years. Quit eventually because I highly underestimated the amount of negative encounters you have with hermits on the river. If they're not shooting at you from a bush, they're screaming for help and dying after being attacked by something or plugging up some waterway with their corpse. The only paranormal thing I've seen in my life, and I'm sure of what I saw, was a white birch along the shoreline of a river I was surveying. I'd gone up that river a lot and had never seen it before. It was a pretty hot day in the summer and I was looking for typical shoreline damage and erosion from the winter months. A lot of those ways don't get traveled for almost a full season or two by anyone who will report the important stuff. I was surveying the river far ahead through some binoculars and I saw this white birch standing out. It wasn't far enough away that it could have been something else. I could easily see the textures and black eyes of its bark. I was getting bad vibes from it and I tend to rely a lot on my paranoid intuition. I stopped and paid attention to the area around me because I thought it might be my subconscious letting me know a hermit was nearby. I looked back and could see the birch with my naked eye, and focused toward it because something was off. At this point I noticed the entire area had been completely quiet when normally there were cicadas chirping, birds screeching, and grass moving around. I didn't notice when it had gone quiet, but I could barely hear the river below when I heard it clear before. I saw that the tree was moving off in the distance. First I had assumed it was heat waves, but when I looked through my binoculars I could clearly see it making an S-shaped bend, and then the inverse, back and forth in a bouncing pattern for what felt like a solid minute. I didn't take my eyes off it, but at some point I felt like I had missing time and it was gone. Everything was back to normal after. Long time lurker, first time posting, so don't eat me alive. I have only ever told this to people that are close to me since it sounds kind of unbelievable, but why the hell not? I need to set the scene first, so this may get long. I've never green texted, so here goes nothing. Be me. About 21 years old. Living with my then GF in some messed up apartment deep in the worst part of town. Be working at generic pizza joint for slave wage. GF and I drink a lot and smoke a lot of weed and cigarettes. Goddamn addicts.jpg. Because we are constantly raiding in and out of consciousness, we tend to not give a damn. We fight every night and have make-up wrestling every night. Toxic.Pokemon. All of the fighting chips away at my will to be with her, even though she cooks incredibly and was better in the sheets. Decisions.mp3. One day the fighting gets absurdly intense, and she spits on my face. Woot.fuke.mp4. Screw this shit, I'm leaving. Grab a backpack and pack it with my essentials and get the hell out of there. Go crash at mom's house cause I have nowhere else to go. Stupid XGF now throws all of my shit away. Whatever. I don't want anything to do with that woman anymore. Now the weekend and I have to go slap the shit out of some pizzas early in the morning. Before opening the slave cage, I have to make sure that everything is in order for the hungry hippos. I check the waiting bench and I see a small black doll. Without thinking I grab it cause I think it may belong to a Karen's child and she might come back to speak to my manager. I look at the doll. It's a friggin' voodoo doll. What the F. Wave. Effing voodoo doll has X written on it, and it even has pins inside it. This cannot be a coincidence. With very little shits to give, I throw it in the garbage outside. That same night, I go back to Mom's since I haven't found a place to stay yet. Mom has company over. The lady is a neighbor from Oaxaca, a state in Mexico whose people are known for being in touch with the paranormal. This lady is no different. She looks at me and tells me that someone has spit on me. You gotta be kidding me. JPEG. I had not told anyone about this fight as I had never been spit on before or since. Logically, I deny it out of shock. Lady looks at me and says that I have touched something dark, something made of magic. I am visibly shocked now. I confess the voodoo doll incident to the lady and my mom. Lady says I need a cleansing and that it will take a while because the magic is strong. Just my luck. For the next few weeks I keep seeing a shadow at night standing across the living room where I am sleeping. Shit bricks every night. I've had sleep paralysis before, but this shadow is overwhelming. As I continue to perform the cleansings, the shadow shows up less and less until it no longer appears. Before this event, I was completely atheist and did not believe in the paranormal, but this experience left me doubtful. How the hell did the lady know that I was spit on or about the voodoo doll? My mom said that the lady has the third eye open. I suppose there is more to reality than what we can perceive because there is no friggin' way anyone could have known the events that happened with my ex. I have 2 more stories if anyone is interested. Thanks Anon. Here is another one for you. Be me. A few weeks after the previous post. Still living with mom cuz we actually get along well. Haven't lived with her since I was 17, and she left with my siblings to another state to find work. I stayed behind to finish high school with my friends and I got the job at generic pizza joint. The neighbor lady and my mom become good friends, so the neighbor lady comes around the house every day. I am constantly asking her questions about her gift. She says her family carries the gift for many generations. She tells me that her family is full of magical people and that one of her uncles went insane with power cuz he was making deals with the devil or some shit. Da fuck you say. Text. She says that she had to consult the help of a higher demon to protect her from her uncle. Shitpants.exe at 99% loading. Don't worry Anon, I stopped doing that stuff many years ago after my uncle died, she says. Gotta be careful around her. Still. She knows a lot of metaphysics from the knowledge passed down through her family. I become obsessed with figuring out if this shit is true. Learn about chakras and shit. Gotta try that shit out. Start meditating every day for at least 1 hour, no exceptions. Feelsgoodman.jpg. I talked to the lady about my research and she actually explains a lot of the shit I did not understand. Now if you think that this lady was probably searching shit too, I can guarantee you that she did not know how to use the internet. She came from a village in God knows where, the middle of nowhere. Now it's about a year later and I have a new GF. We have been dating for about 4 months and she wants me to live with her. Not this shit again. JPEG. I move in with her cuz she a freak in the sheets. Now living with her in her retired grandma's house. Grandma likes me cause I'm Mexican and I can speak Spanish like her, also I'm not an asshole. Start sleeping with GF in our room and living in the house in general. House always feels cold and I always feel like there is someone watching me. I never feel alone in the house even when I am. De hellis this shit.pdf. I start losing sleep cuz it feels like someone is staring intensely. Again with this shit.wave. Shit felt awfully similar to voodoo doll incident, so I knew how to take care of myself. Also feel strong spiritually cause of meditation. One night, I am sleeping and I wake up to sleep paralysis. I see it at the foot of the bed, a tall friggin' shadow just standing there. It's difficult to explain, but the shadow felt like it was an angry man and not like the androgynous shadow from the voodoo doll. Start to get pissed myself 'cause I need my sleep. Shadow grabs my feet and starts to drag me off the bed. Panic.exe. Error, panic.exe has stopped running. Kicked the shit out of the shadow and begin to concentrate my will against it as I get on my feet. Staring contest.exe. Shadow senses that it cannot intimidate me and books it out of the room. No you don't. Apk. Hot pursuit.nfs. Chase it out of the room and everything is back to normal. My GF is somehow asleep through all of this. Next day, talk to her about it. She tells me that a man died in that house and that he bothers her brother too. Brother lives with us but we cool. Why the hell didn't you tell me this shit? I forgot, she says. I never felt that presence again in that house but her brother still did. I got one more if anyone is interested. Alright, here is one more since you asked. This one takes place in my childhood. Be me. Living in Mexico City where I was born. I am 7 years old and my mama's mama is really sick. She had surgery in her pancreas but the doctors are idiots and they did not stick her well so the stitches come open. Mom has to clean her surgical wound and I accidentally see her and grandma crying. Feels bad man.jpg. A week or so later, grandma dies from the infection. Rip grandma. My dad has been living and working in the USA for about 2 years and gets kicked by an ostrich because he is a dumbass and did not close the ostrich gate correctly. Asks mom to go take care of him in the US like a baby. At the same time, one of my uncles invades the house we live in with his soccer team of a family. He has 10 sons and 1 daughter. Girl cousin is the youngest and the most spoiled, yet somehow she is still a good cousin and shares with my 2 sisters. All other kids are not spoiled but are more rotten than rotten.com. In Mexico, most poor people will keep their recently dead in their home for 7 days so the family can come and mourn the deceased. This is the excuse my uncle used to move into our house. All the bedrooms are upstairs and the kids all sleep in one room. During the time grandma's coffin is in the home, us kids hear her calling to us by name. Anon, I want to see you, says grandma. Cry.exe. Anon, go see what grandma wants, says human garbage cousin. Screw that shit. Trash cousins begin to take me downstairs. I hold on to them for dear life. Firmly grasp it.exe. We are in it together.c. As the week passed, we became more brave and investigated where grandma's voice was coming from. Never saw anything but heard her calling us all week by name. After we bury grandma, the voices stop but uncle's family remains. Girl cousin has a stupid looking doll that she carries with her everywhere and plays with all the time. Pic related, it's one of the dolls. This shit doll is made of cloth and has 2 faces on opposite sides of the head, one is awake and the other is asleep. Be a few months later. Mom has left to the US and left us with soccer team family. FML. A very famous and popular singer releases a new song. Obviously, song is a big hit and we kids actually like the song. We are playing on the roof of the house 'cause Mexican houses in the city are flat on the top. Uncle built a small shed for us kids to play in and we turned it into a playhouse. One day, we are playing like retards on the roof and we decide to sing 'cause we kids. Lungs at max efficiency. Suddenly. Shut the hell up, stupid kids. Is heard from the shed. There is no one in the shed cause we all singing together like retards. Silence.mp3. Can't you see that I'm trying to sleep? We Usain Bolt out of there. Girl cousin grabs the doll and starts running downstairs. One of her many brothers stops her and takes the doll from her. Generic brother throws it back upstairs and we run outside. Aunt and uncle are out getting groceries. We are a bunch of stupid kids, scared shitless, and alone in the streets because we are too scared to go back in the house. A family friend is passing by and sees how startled we are, so he stays with us until aunt and uncle come back. Aunt is pissed at us being outside and asks why we left the house. The doll yelled at us. We say, "What the hell are you guys on about? It's a stupid doll," Aunt yells, "You guys better get back inside or I'll beat you all." Reluctantly go back inside. We go back upstairs and the doll is not there. Friggin' doll is back in the bed girl cousin made for her. Screw this shit.pdf. The following week, girl cousin comes home from school and her doll is gone. Aunt tells her she threw it out cause it was old and dirty. Girl cousin cries like a little girl cause she is one. A few days later, I hear aunt telling other aunt why she threw the doll away. B aunt. Have to take care of entire soccer team mostly by myself. Team is not even good, mostly retard kids. Come home one day from getting groceries with husband and see kids outside with family friend. Yell at them and tell them to go back inside. Stupid ass kids. They say that one of the dolls yelled at them. Yeah right.png. Be a few days later. Stupid kids left their stupid toys all over the place. I can't even start picking up the toys like a maid. Stop making noise. Can't you see I'm sleeping? All of my what's? See stupid dirty doll sleeping. Keep cleaning but I am friggin' scared. I told you to let me sleep. Look at stupid doll and it is awake now. How the hell? Ah hell no. .jpg. I will not have this shit in this house. Take stupid dirty doll to the trash man as he comes by once a week. Very convenient. Only daughter is super sad over the stupid dirty doll. She'll get over it. Never see doll again. This is my last story. If I can remember any others I will post them. I hope they were scary/funny. Yes, these things actually happened to me. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Alright peeps, here is one more. This one is short but it made a big impact in my life. Be me. About 15 years old. Finally live in our own apartment, just mom, my 3 sisters, and me. Feels goodman.jpg. I have one older sister, a younger sister, and youngest sister. We have been renting the apartment for about 3 months. Nothing to see here. .png. One Saturday afternoon, I am chilling in the house with younger sister. Younger sister and I are sitting at the dining table talking like retards. Feel thirsty, so go get soda from the fridge and sit down at the head of the table next to younger sis. Suddenly, "Hey Anon, can I ask you something?" she asks. "Why the hell not? Did you know that there is a little girl that died here?" she says. Defuse.mp3. I am not believing her 'cause she lies sometimes and I have been tricked in the past. Stop lying, Anonette. How come I have never seen or heard her? Because the girl is scared of you. She is a little girl like 4 or 5. Ghost girl is scared of me, lol. Still don't believe her. The is one, Anon. She is standing right next to me. Shitsinglebrick.exe. Where is she then, Anonette? Right here sitting next to me, she says. I place my half-full soda down and look at chair. Nothing. You're full of shit, Anonette. If there is a little girl, ask her to move this soda. Sis looks at chair and says, can you move the soda? Wait. See. Nothing is happening. I told you. Soda moves to the center of the table where the ghost girl is supposed to be. Ah hell no. JPEG. Still don't believe it's a ghost. How did you do that, Anonette? Look under the wooden table to find magnets or anything that can explain this shit. Nothing. I'm thinking that my sister is an X-Men or some shit. Ask her to teach me how to move shit with my mind. It was the little girl, Anon. Till this day she claims it was the girl, but I don't know what to think. Thoughts? I finally get to tell this one. I'm not bullshitting either, by the way. This really happened. Be me. College sophomore. Eating lunch in the cafeteria with colleague bro. Colleague bro works for the cafeteria, but IW as his day off. One of his co-workers come over to shoot the shit. We're all in viewing distance of this buggy that has toasters. Next to one of the toasters was this butter knife somebody left behind. While we're talking, swoosh. Friggin' flies off buggy on its own. It floats for a second. It falls straight down to the floor. Me, colleague bro, and cafe worker all seen it. Cafe worker freaks the hell out and tells us the cafeteria is haunted by the ghost of a recently passed employee. Other cooks have seen plates fly off shelves and shit like that. She also tells me something about a psychic professor on campus who would mess with his students by doing shit like that. A few weeks later, she comes back and tells me one of the campus police officers seen the footage of the knife and said there was nobody around to move the knife. Of course, my view on the world changes. Eventually, the skeptic in me comes out and I think that all this is some kind of elaborate prank by colleague bro. Skip to a year ago. Working the same on-campus job as colleague bro. Looks into his leftover files on the work computer like the nosy autist I am. Finds one of his essays. Screw it, I'm getting paid to do nothing. MP4. Reads essay and it mentions he saw a ghost in the cafeteria. Nope. My face when I caught the ghost of an old cook lady trolling her old coworker. Alright, I've always wondered what happened this one night years ago. Maybe someone here can enlighten me. For reference, I lived at the top of an apartment tower. There are 12 floors below me. Me and wife in bed. She's asleep but I'm having trouble getting to sleep. I'm just staring at the wall across from the bed waiting for sleep to come. See something in the dark fall from the ceiling to the floor. It made an audible smack. Sit up a little to look at object. It's blocky, rectangular like a brick or a book or something. Sticking diagonally out of the floor, too dark to see any details. As I'm looking, considering getting up and turning on a light to see, it starts to vibrate violently. After a second of vibrating, it starts to sink through the floor. Gone completely. Woke up in the morning to search for clues, but there was nothing on the ceiling or floor, and I'm positive I wasn't dreaming. I saw and heard it, right in front of my face. Be in night school. Get home around 10 or so. Take a different way home one night. Pass a little strip center I haven't driven by in a while. Was a Schlotzsky's last I checked, but now it's a Mexican restaurant. Still open, bustling with customers. Even has a drive-through with cars lined up around the building. Might hit that up next week. Get home and go to sleep. Next week. Take same route back home from class. Hungry and looking forward to some Mexican restaurant. Reach the spot. No Mexican restaurant. Just the empty shell of the old Schlotzsky's. Shut down and closed for business. My face when. Found a hole in a fence one day. Decide to stick my dick in it. Unzip pants. Squeeze the lil feller through. Well well well. I hear this voice on the other side of the fence, a thick Irish brogue. Peer over the fence. There's a little man on the other side. Mr. Flannery, says he, for that was my name. Hello, I say back to him. The little man wore all green. A green coat and green shoes with golden buckles, a green top hat upon his shock of red hair. And he was no more than 2 feet tall. He says to me, you know better than to go stickin' your fat cock where it don't belong. I'm trying to pull my dick out of the hole at this point, but it seems to be stuck. I suppose, says the little man, you be wanting my help getting the old boy out now. I would, says I. Suddenly I felt my dick slide right out of the hole. Now be on your way, says the little man, for I've already taken my wages. I looked down. And oh, I could have cried. Where formerly my once impressive member hung, now a stub no larger than a baby's thumb. I gave one last glance over the fence. But the little man was gone. This event happened less than a year ago. Recalling the last part is pretty intense for me still, it actually still makes my eyes water. It's around 10 p.m., summer night in Mammoth Mountain, CA. In a nice hotel. GF is asleep beside me. Suddenly get the urge to go outside. Always been an amateur astronomer with hundreds of hours of experience with a telescope. The night sky in the thin, clear mountain air is wonderful as always. Orion's spur clearly visible. Begin looking intently at the sky. Hoping, longing to see anything. I'll settle for an astronomical phenomena even, then go to bed hoping to see a shooting star. Look at the sky. Begin breathing exercises. Do the breathing exactly as during mindfulness meditation. For an instant, look at the sky, breathe out and truly let go. Just emptiness, feeling of continuity with the sky. Nothing intentional about how it occurred, which is why it felt so peaceful and amazing. All of a sudden a glowing blue orb appears. It approaches from the northeast, I'd say it was a few thousand feet off of the ground. It is glowing ionizing blue. To me it looks spherical, but it's hard to really tell. It maneuvers gently through the sky, almost wavering a bit as it travels. Like it almost wobbles. Feel intense gratitude. Eyes well up with tears. Thank it in my mind repeatedly for appearing. It keeps traveling down through the valley, probably above the Lake Mary area and heading south if I had to gauge its location. Follow it for a good 30 seconds. It gets blocked behind the top of a pine tree, obscuring my view from the balcony. Can still see the point of light. It reappears in a crack between the canopy of trees across the street. Still glowing bright blue. Suddenly it changes from blue to red. It makes a sharp turn and looks like it's headed straight at me from miles away. The red point of light becomes almost yellow and seemingly shoots at me like, for lack of better words, a beam. Disappears. Go back inside, shook. Not spooky or anything, just a weird friggin' experience. Go to university, live with GF in temporary basement apartment. Only ever been around front door to apartment, don't even know / care what rest of property looks like. One day approach the apartment from opposite side for the first time. Walk along the lawn, taking a moment to look around. Notice activity in basement window beside our apartment. It's a couple of tall, youngish guys working on something on a desk facing the window and me. They're busy filing some papers on a stack of differently colored plastic trays. Both are wearing some kind of metallic green half caps / visor things as well as neat shirts and bow ties. Just stand there staring at them for a moment, amazed. Didn't even know we had neighbors lol. Walk past the window and look into the next window, see GF sitting in sofa. Go in and break the news to GF that I just now noticed we lived next to someone. GF looks at me, puzzled. Anon, it's just us here in the basement, we don't and can't actually have neighbors. But we actually do lol, believe it or not. Take increasingly concerned GF out to the window where I'd seen the guys. Look in. Guys are gone, the lights are off and the room is now completely different and emptier. What? Realize it's actually the guest room to our own apartment. Freeze in terror, mind now racing, just dumbfounded. But they were here, I swear they were here. GF now visibly afraid, realize I'm coming off as a complete lunatic. Never speak of it again. Had something bizarre happen when I was maybe 6 or 7. Remember waking up in the morning. Looked at poster on the wall right next to me, was a poster of one of those jet-powered speed boats. See a small dot maybe a centimeter across on the poster. Dot appears to shape-shift, hard to explain, but it almost seemed to me at the time like some sort of portal. Try to touch it, just feel the poster. Dot never moved, so likely not an optical illusion. Start to freak out, so I left my room and when I came back it was gone. Any idea what this might have been? Still remember it pretty vividly all these years later. Me, only a wee lad. Washing my hands after a piss. Mom kept a bottle of lotion on the counter by the sink. Never used any before. Decide to try it. It's one of those pump bottles that you have to press hard. I struggle to give it a good pump. Finally do. The bottle goes, ow, as a massive turd of white lotion plops out onto the counter. Think, WTF, did I really just hear that? Give the bottle another pump. I hear, ow. Clearly coming from the bottle, kinda slow and drawn out like a tired old man groaning. Not scared for some reason. Spend about an hour pumping this massive bottle over and over again. It keeps making these sounds of agony, always different, ooh. Ugh. Over time the agony becomes less pained and more relieved, ooh. Like an old man getting a good massage. Keep going. The counter is now coated in a thick frosting of lotion. Don't care, keep pumping. Finally, the bottle sprays out its last bits of lotion. There's a huge satisfied sigh from the bottle, Feels good, man. I helped the bottle spirit. Maybe I'll get a reward. Right around then Mom walks in. Anon, WTF are you doing? Tell Mom about the bottle spirit. Try to tell her it might be good luck. Maybe Dad will come back. But she's not even listening. She yanks me up by my arm and spanks the shit out of me and sends me to my room. Mental note: spirits are more trouble than they're worth. Never screw with spirits ever again. But the memory stokes my interest in the paranormal and I ultimately become an/x/file. Now I'm stuck here forever. The spirits have effed me again, friends. My parents and older relatives that were close to them have had paranormal experiences because they lived in an area with witches and uncivilized nature. Only their little village was civilized because they were Germans who built it up after some time, but it was surrounded by really obnoxious Muslims in the middle of the past Soviet Union. So much happened from dying people getting hell shown to them by an angel, to kids needing magical help to get rid of their fear of their own shadow, my uncle etc., to kids just casually trying to awaken a cursed doll up to evil and good witches and people using spells to curse others. Like putting enchanted grave dirt underneath someone's doormat so they develop a rotten feeling in their stomach and maybe even die if the curse isn't broken. Happened to my mother, but a so-called white witch that appeared to her grandmother and her at the same time saved her by giving the hint to remove the dirt for a bit of rice or something like that. All this just because of jealousy. I didn't believe them until I remembered that I found some occult books in our library that I sadly couldn't read at that age. They sold them and I never found them. Only this one time when I stumbled upon one copy, but I decided not to take it out of fear. My mom also used to do a weird thing with an egg in a vase full of water when I was sick, and I was sick extremely often. She also never lied to us as far as I can remember. To my surprise, my father, who lived in the same region, also shared such stories and fully believes in it, but other than that he's just an average honest hard-working man. I'm absolutely serious and swear on my soul, if it exists, that nothing in this post is a lie from my side. Young lad. Parents have been going through a bitter divorce. They start trying to one-up each other by getting me cool shit. Dad will buy me a nice toy, Mom will buy me a different, better one. Dad will take me to the movies, Mom will take me out to the pizza arcade. I see how this sounds, but none of that shit ever made me happy. In fact, it made me feel worse. Anything we did together, my parents always felt like they were forcing me to have a good time so that they could throw it in each other's faces later. 12th birthday is coming up. Not looking forward to it. Dad has been promising me a trip to the water park. Mom is planning a huge party for me. She tells me to invite all of your friends from school. I don't even have friends, LMAO. I don't know what got into me, but one day I just left the house. Started walking, not paying attention to where I was going. I just remember walking towards the woods. At some point I eventually exited the woods and found myself crossing through a field. Realized I had no idea where I was. Didn't care, just kept walking. Grass is up to my waist, exhausting to walk through. Start getting really tired. See a huge brambly bush thing up ahead, about 30 feet away. Decide I'll take shelter there and sleep for a while. Keep walking. Brambly bush doesn't seem any closer. Keep walking. It's getting late. The bush still isn't any closer. What the EFF is going on? Sun goes down. Still haven't reached the bush. End up falling asleep in the middle of the field. Not sure how much time passes, but I wake up to a commotion. Hear voices all around me. Someone shouts, "We found him! Over here! Over here!" I get up and see black silhouettes all around me, hear dogs on leashes, I see lights flashing in the distance. One of the silhouettes reaches me. Long story short, parents noticed I was missing and called the cops. Cops found me in the field. They told my parents I had walked in circles for God knows how long around this little tree. In circles? I remember trying to walk towards the tree in the distance. You must have been delirious from the heat, son, Dad tells me. Cops said I had circled the tree for so long that I had flattened all of the tall grass. When they found me, there was a clear circular path all around the tree. Epilogue: this event ultimately led my parents to stay together. They just celebrated their 20th anniversary. I surprised them by telling them they were going to be grandparents. Funny how life can turn around like that. Not like what you described, but be me. Trade fag about to start work at like 630 on a cold-ass winter morning in Canada. Waiting in my car for the forklift to get started so I can get to work. It's friggin' freezing and foreman can't seem to get the machine started. I keep glancing over to my left, I'm waiting in my car with the heat on, starting to doubt we will be working. At one point I look to the left and near the top of my vision in the clear sky I see this crazy series of bright flashes. Like a few firecrackers going off in a streak, can't remember, but it was like red and white and probably a few other colors. Whole thing took maybe 2 seconds. It was so high up in the sky and I was facing east, it looked like it happened in low Earth orbit, over the Atlantic Ocean or something. Obviously no one saw it. It was enough to challenge my reality, but I was already super red-pilled, so maybe SSP activity? Didn't end up working that day. I think I went home and got high. Be me, 14. School trip to Snowy Mountain. We all sleep in the same cabin. Go with the rest of the boys to gather wood to a nearby forest. Old woman starts screaming at us for stealing her wood. We apologize and instead collect wood from near the cabin. Old woman starts screaming again and starts assaulting us. We call a teacher for help. Teacher says he saw nothing. FF to the night. Doing some math work with classmates. Rain starts pouring. I look outside the window because I like the scenery. For a quick second see the old woman staring right at the cabin with some soulless eyes and something in her hand. I can't remember if it was a shotgun or just a stick. I freak out. Classmates see outside. They freak out too. Teacher comes rushing. Nothing is there. Go to sleep. Heard constant noises and steps outside, but when I go outside I see nothing. Next day comes. Gathering wood, no old woman. Night comes, no old woman. Sleeping, no sounds. I know it probably was an old lady protecting her property from us, and when the teachers went to see what happened she was already gone, but still, it was terrifying. A couple of years ago I was hanging out with some buddies of mine and I went to this store that was like 4 blocks away. I was buying cigs at this 24/7 kiosk when I suddenly feel my jacket being tugged but real soft, like some puppy or kid trying to get your attention, and unsurprisingly there it was, a really small sort of grimy little girl, blonde and blue-eyed. She couldn't have been older than 8 years, and she's asking me for money. OFC, I'm not a greedy goblin bastard, and I still had a job at that time, so I began to search for some cash in my pocket, and as I'm about to give it to her I look at where she was standing, and the girl had completely disappeared. I looked all round me but I couldn't find her anywhere. It was real worrying since it was like 1 to 2 a.m. in friggin' South America. I mean, that shit's not gonna end well. I then circled around the block a few times and even posted on Facebook and IG about this missing little girl. About a year or so later, I found out there was a murder-suicide in one of the flats nearby the kiosk I was buying, and surprise surprise, it was a little girl murdered by her father. I couldn't stomach to actually dig for a pic of the girl, due to fear of her actually having appeared besides me that night. I once saw a ghost long time ago, and this ghost still spook me right now. Be me. Probably 2011. I was watching some TV shows with my family while I was sitting on the couch. Gets bored, so I just wander around the living room. I approach the glass door. Stare at it for approximately couple minutes. Apparently, there's no cars. Suddenly, I heard the garage door open by itself. I wonder who can that be. JPG. Look at the garage. Once the garage open all the way, the ghost appears out of nowhere and starts to move across the garage. The ghost looks like Thomas the Tank Engine, but with dark pitch eyes and upside down mouth, and the body is white. It makes these eerie creepy sounds. I watch Thomas the Tank Engine exit the garage and heading towards the backyard. Got spooked and immediately ran towards the same couch to hide. My dad asked me what's wrong. I responded there's a ghost outside. He doesn't believe me and continue to watch the TV. After 10 minutes of getting spook, I wonder if this ghost ever exists. So, I decide to confront the ghost Thomas the Tank Engine again. Now things are going to get interesting. I was in a birthday party, playing some Street Fighters on the TV. Wins against a girl. I wonder if the ghost ever appear again, which it burns my curiosity. So, I have no choice but to go outside and stare at the garage door. There are people around me having a barbecue and talking to each other. This lasts for 4 to 7 minutes. Then, the garage door opens. I walk near the glass door so Thomas won't possess me. When the garage door is fully opened, my sis open the glass door and I tell her to not move. Thomas the Tank Engine appears and starts to move across the garage, then the shelter, then the backyard. It make these eerie creepy sounds again. Lucky, people aren't standing in the garage and there aren't in his way. I watch him while I try to not to chicken out. Once Thomas reached the fence, he vanished out of thin air. It took around 5 seconds for Thomas to appear again. He was spawned on the same fence and he heads his way through the backyard to the garage before he completely vanish. Tells my sis she is completely free to move. This is my first time I have seen this unusual ghost and it still spooks me right now. Dad's side of the family owns a big ranch. Has a private cemetery. Most of the men are buried there. I'll probably be buried there one day. After Dad dies, visit the cemetery to pay my respects. Been really missing the old man. Find his grave. Start crying immediately, call me a pussy if you want. Crying turns into sobbing. Tears and snot and the whole thing. Get a strange feeling all of a sudden. Like a sudden temperature change. Glance up. Through tears I see a line of men standing about 20 feet away, watching me. My dad's there in the center. My grandpa's standing next to him. Only see them for a moment. Rub the tears from my eyes. They're all gone. Whatever that was, I felt a lot better afterwards. I like to think they were telling me that it's going to be okay. Browsing massive university library. Absent-mindedly looking around. As I come around one aisle I see something that makes me almost choke. There's a little girl sitting on one of the bookshelves. She has to be no more than a foot in height. She's sitting snug, right up against a bookend, in the space between the books and the shelf. Her tiny legs are dangling off the side and she's swinging them. She's looking right at me. Her face looks like a doll's face, but otherwise she seems totally human. I feel absolute horror for some reason at seeing her. She wasn't threatening in any way, but I felt my throat close up and I started to back away. She held my gaze as I moved. I blinked a few times in disbelief and she disappeared. Literally in the blink of an eye. Babysitting my niece. Family thinks of me as a big kid so they always pawn her off on me. I don't mind, she's great. Anyway, we're outside on the front lawn. She likes to play with the hose so I'm unraveling it so I can turn it on. As I do this I glance back at my niece. I can see her bright red shirt in the corner of my eye. I can also see a huge black pickup truck barreling down the road. Adrenaline spikes. My blood runs cold. I turn around. Watch my niece dart out into the street. Right into the path of the truck. For a second I'm frozen. Then the truck makes contact. I hear a dull thump. I see my niece leveled right under the big tires. Feel myself running. I'm yelling. The driver isn't stopping. I'm coming to the spot where my niece should be. But there's nobody there. No blood, nothing. I turn around. My niece is on the lawn, playing with the hose. My heart is pounding in my ears. I rush over to her and scoop her up into my arms. Crying. From that day on I'm way more watchful of her. I still don't know what happened. Was it just a panic hallucination because I saw the speeding truck? Your story reminded me of something. It's not that weird. Just an odd unexplained occurrence. Frequent the local library. Been going like once a week for the past 10 years, very friendly with the librarians, etc. One day, I notice a shopping cart by the entrance. It's loaded with stuff and topped with a blanket, the way a homeless person's belongings sometimes are. Don't see any homeless person around, but figure that's what it is. Whatever, right? But I notice it every time I go to the library. Never a homeless person around. Shopping cart is always in the same spot, off to the side by the front doors, not in anybody's way. One day I spot the homeless person. It's this tiny little man who looks all black like a friggin' burnt leaf, just pitch friggin' black. He's wearing a little cloak too, or a cape, kinda like pick related. I remember thinking it made him look like a withered old monk LMAO. The cape looked brand new, which was weird. It was all shiny and velvety looking. As I walked by him I made eye contact and the old man froze. He nodded slightly as I passed. I nodded back and smiled. He didn't LOL. So I walk inside. Bring up the old man to the librarians, thinking maybe one of them saw him. None of them have. I describe him, mention how he looked totally black like charcoal, and wore a little cape. Realize how ridiculous it sounds. None them have any idea what I'm talking about. I bring up the shopping cart, thinking they must have at least noticed that. Describe it, mention how it's been there for weeks now, by the front doors. Zilch. They have zero clue what I'm talking about. One of them even says that homeless people aren't allowed to linger at the library, or even to leave their belongings there. There's some ordinance against it or something. Weird. Anyway, I pick up a book as usual and leave the library. When I exit, I find the man and the shopping cart both gone. Never see him or his belongings ever again. Most of you will think this is a LARP, but I walked 50 years into the past. 50 years I tell you. Gather round, and I'll share my tale, for a bite of bread and a sip of ale. Where I come from, there's a short bridge. An overpass, really, for trains. But no train has run along those tracks in over 40 years. Still, a road does run that way, though few are known to take it now. This particular road dips down under the bridge, and slants back up on the other side. And that's the divider between the new business district and the old. And the old district is nothing now but leaning warehouses rusting in the sun. These are the hollow shells of what used to be the factories. Their glory has faded now. They stand, or lean, tired and old and empty. Empty like my own belly say. I wouldn't mind another bite of that delicious cornbread, if you'd be so kind. Sure, I'll take a refill of that ale as well. It's dark and bitter. Yes, dark and bitter, like so much these days. Well, as I was saying, a road runs that way, though few are known to take it now. And yet I did. Don't ask me why. I suppose it was the hunger. Hunger makes a man do dangerous things. And bad for me, I had just spent my last dime on a sip of whiskey. The winter bites where I come from, and whiskey's the only thing that bites back. But how hungry I was! And an old beggar like me is not likely to garner sympathy in the new business district. No sir, no sympathy at all. And so it was that I took that lonesome road. And it dipped, as I mentioned earlier, down into the belly of the bridge. Into the growing darkness. But when the road was darkest, there came a sound. From that old, dying part of town, from that district where both machinery and man had long ceased their labor, there came a living sound. At first, it was faint. But as I was coming out of the darkness, into the cold sunlight of the old business district, I heard it loud and clear. It was the whirring and gasping and thrumming of the factories. I couldn't believe it. For a moment, I wondered if the cold had gotten me. Maybe it had gripped my body in the cold, dark heart of the bridge, and I was dead, or dreaming, on the frozen road. That part of me said, "Go back. Nothing good can come from this." And I very nearly did. Only something pulled me forward. A certain rumbling of the earth. And then a whistle, so loud and piercing that I gave a start. But I knew what it was, and I rushed forward in disbelief. As I came out from under the rumbling bridge, I looked up. And what should I see, but a train. A shining, magnificent, howling train. On those old, forgotten tracks, in that old, forgotten part of town. I could scarcely tear my eyes away. But when I did, I saw the factories. They all looked new. No longer leaning and tired and sad, but gleaming in the winter sun, tall and proud. And then a second whistle blew from inside one of the buildings. The sound seemed to pull me towards it. I rested my hand on the fence surrounding the factory and watched as a horde of men came piling out, sweating and covered in soot and laughing. Part of me was afraid to move. I thought, wherever I am not supposed to be here. And so I stayed still as a ghost. And I watched the men as they sat on the hard dirt and unpacked their lunch. But oh! How my hunger returned at the sight of their food. Soups and apples and sandwiches. I think the rumbling in my own belly drowned out the rumble of the train. And it made me forget all about where I was. Fine day for a feast. The words came out without me wanting them to. For a second, it sounded like I was hearing someone else's voice. But then the men looked over at me, and I knew it was me that had spoken. "Plenty to go around, old-timer." One of the men shouted back. "Well," I said, "I don't suppose it would do me any harm to break my fast." The men waved me over and I stepped through an entrance in the fence. A man handed me a sandwich. "I'll tell you, friends, there is no spice or seasoning in all of God's creation like hunger." When I bit down into that mayonnaise and bologna on white, the little hairs on the back of my neck stood up, and I felt my belly smiling. Another man opened a small cooler and pulled out a crisp bottle of beer, which he handed me. And we all drank and swapped stories. I told the one about the time St. Peter's Episcopal gave me a new suit of clothes and a fresh shave and a shower. That very same afternoon, I happened to walk past a cook-off. Someone mistook me for one of the judges. I was looking rather spiffy in my new clothes. I made the rounds that day, I'll tell you. By the time the real judge showed up, I was good and full and well on my way out the door. That one got a good laugh, and one of the men said, "You're a mighty fine storyteller, old-timer. Truth be told, that can be just as nice as a good meal. A man can live on that sort of bread, let me tell you." Well, of course, the hour flew by, as time does. The factory whistle blew a second time and I watched the men pick up their lunchboxes and trudge off back to work. They all waved to me as they went and urged me to come back the next day. "A good story pays around here," they said, "if you don't mind the wages." I told them bologna and mayo makes a fine paycheck for a man like me. Then the men disappeared. And once more, I was alone. I think it was the beer. Or maybe it was the meal, I hadn't eaten in days, but despite the cold, I drifted off to sleep. It couldn't have been more than a few minutes. But when I opened my eyes again, the sounds of the factory had faded. The building itself was now a shadow of what it had been. Dilapidated and creaking in the wind. That wind. It really picked up. I found myself jumping to my feet, no small feat for a man of my age, and wobbling back for the shelter of the bridge. I would have taken refuge in the factory, except that only part of that damned building, excuse me, of that old building was the massive lock and chain that some artistic soul had used to decorate the entrance. And so it was that I found myself, without wanting or even meaning to, walking back towards the new business district. I kicked around for a bit, looking for an out-of-the-way place to rest my bones. A place warm enough to sleep, where the men in suits can't see me from their glittering towers blemishing their city with my presence. I found a little spot behind a dumpster. I leaned against it and closed my eyes. But as I did, I found the scene replaying itself. The factory whistle. The bologna and mayo on white. The memory pressed into my thoughts like a shiny quarter. I thought of the men, sharing their simple meals with me, laughing with me. I thought of the train rumbling on its tracks, and I found myself looking out at the new business district. From there I saw the light rail, a new addition to the city. It was packed to the gills with colonies of commuters. All of them held briefcases full of plans. Plans for the city. Plans for the future. Looking out from behind my dumpster, I knew there was no place in that future for an old-timer like me. There never was. I leaned back and closed my eyes again. I let the scene replay itself on a loop, like a film reel, in my mind. I wondered if maybe, somehow, it's possible that those men are still there, having lunch, to this day. Somehow, maybe they always will be. They'll always be there, 50 years ago, in the old business district. With all its noise and toil and sweat and soot. And hope. If they are, I'd like to think they'll wait for me. I'd like to see them again someday. Thanks for the bread and the ale, friends. I've had a couple of experiences. Taking a walk down my street one evening. Noticed some weird green light in the sky above the trees. There's two more. They form the points of a triangle. Nothing connects them, but they rotate across the sky as one. Get freaked out and go straight home. Never seen anything like it since. Having a Reiki session because my mother suggested it. Decide screw it, why not? Not really noticing anything weird. Suddenly feel a distinct tugging at the top of my head. Felt as though my spirit/soul or whatever was being pulled on. Brother's friend is staying over. He comes upstairs looking freaked out. Genuine look of shock. Proceeds to ask my mother about our dead aunt and describes what she looked like. He was never around often, so there's no way he would have known her name, let alone her appearance. Recently, my other brother said he's smelled her perfume just randomly.